I am here with Allen Neeley
Yes,
from
sir.
Team Neeley. We got Val here too that we'll spend some time with after you, Allen. Thank you for coming in and joining us.
Yeah, thanks for
Appreciate
having me, man. Love this place.
Yeah, we go back quite a ways, right?
Absolutely, man.
When did we meet each other?
And it's been, I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, yeah, how long have I known and have worked with Matt?
Do you know the year that we met?
Yeah, it was like 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
You know, and so we were both working in Seal Beach at a bank over there, and of course the economy was a very different place at that time. But you were kind of on your own path, but we were both in the same position. And at the end of the day, we kind of reconvened, years later into where we are now in real estate.
Yeah, that was Wells Fargo, right?
Yes, sir.
So that was, was that 17 years ago now?
Yeah,
and we worked together, obviously, and you guys have trusted us with a lot of your clients, and we're grateful for that. And I would say beyond business, we've become really great friends.
Absolutely,
and
man.
Someone that I can lean on and chat to through, different things that I'm going through in life. And it's been a real pleasure having you and Val as friends. So we're grateful for the relationship and the partnership. I wanted to just start by getting an understanding of kind of what you and Val do different than most agents. And, for me, it really comes down to how you treat your clients and the lengths that you go to for your clients, both buyers and sellers. So maybe you could take a few minutes to speak to, what you think differentiates you guys from every other real estate agent out there in the market.
When it comes to the way that we view our clients, I think that's where the biggest difference is. When I first got into the business, it was very much from a posture of how can I help people with one of the biggest financial decisions that they were going to make, and how can I be of service to them, right? I'm very servant-hearted, and so I don't look at people as numbers. I look at them as actual people and us helping them with that milestone in their life. So when I was in banking, one of the biggest things that I would do, it's not like I was, a terrible employee or anything like that. I was obviously there for, close to 10 years. But I remember the last few years I was itching and wanting to do something, a little bit different, right? Something that was a little bit more closer to people. I loved helping people out, so I did great at that in banking. And, it was one of those things where people would sit with me and, 1 to 2 hours later, I would help them with whatever their issue was, maybe even helping them excel in their plans. But after that was said and done, I was like, okay, the relationship's pretty much done. I did what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And at that point in time in my life, I was like, hey, I kind of want to do something different, right? And so the idea of real estate came to mind because my wife, she was in mortgage lending at that time. She was working at a few different places, started at Wells Fargo and then a couple different, credit unions and some, direct lenders and things like that in different positions. And she came to me and was like, hey, Allen, you've been thinking about doing something different for quite some time. I work with a whole bunch of real estate agents. And, the majority of them, to say it nicely, they weren't, as sharp as, where you are, in your industry. I think if you got your real estate license and worked the same way that you do right now, that you'd be able to make a big difference in people's lives, right?
That's awesome.
So I went ahead and jumped ship. We basically went all in on that and got my license.
What year was that?
That was in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, so when I left, my biggest thing was, of course, I wanted to come from a customer service perspective. How can I help these people? But a lot of it also was brand new territory for me. So yeah, I had some background in banking, finance, even some lending. But this whole new idea of real estate sales contracts was new to me. So when you pose that question of like how am I different? I think where I came from is a different place than where most real estate agents come from, and I don't view people as numbers, although this is a numbers business.
Sure.
But I look at people and I say, how can I serve them to the best possible manner to drive the results that are going to give them what they want, right? And also by being realistic too, I'll be honest almost to a fault, to a point where they're, like if you were to talk to many different agents, they're like, why did you say that and give up that sale or that listing or anything like that? And to me, I was like, because I'm not going to be able to service them with 100% honesty and integrity if I were to, do that and show that contract to them.
Right.
So I think the biggest difference between us and many other agents, not to say that other agents don't operate at a harder service, but that is definitely something that we put at the forefront of what we do.
Yeah.
And to try to go above and beyond to say, you know what, if there's something that is blocking us from operating at 100%, how can we create a solution to that?
Yep.
So there are many times that we've gone way out of our way that most agents would not even think about doing, or they'd be like, no, I'm not even going to try that.
Right.
Painting a whole house? Nope, we're not going to do that.
Yep.
Putting up some backsplash? Nope, not going to do that.
Yep.
But we would, and
Yeah.
we've done that several times in our past.
Yeah, and I think it shows because from what I know about your business, it's not like you're out paying for advertising and marketing and Zillow, and
Yeah.
I mean, from what I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, your business has grown organically through your network and referrals because you treat people right, you do the right thing.
Yeah.
You help the same people over and over again because they come back to you, and I've seen that myself in the borrowers that we've helped for you on the financing side. We work with the same client more than once because they trust you so much, and so
Right.
it just speaks volumes to how you and Val treat your clients and the way that you approach the business. What company did you start with in the business?
We've been with First Team Real Estate for a very long time.
Yeah, and you've held multiple roles. You were assistant manager, you were a manager of the branch that you guys were at, and
Right.
then you recently realized like management probably wasn't the best route, right? You didn't enjoy it as much as you thought, and so
Sure.
you're back to full production, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Happy with that move still?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 And nothing wrong with management. It's just at this phase in time in my life, it wasn't conducive for me.
Yeah.
And so when I came back to First Team Real Estate, they did hire me as the assistant manager of the Irvine office, and my objective there was to become the branch manager. And so after being assistant manager for a little over a year, they went ahead and moved the branch manager that was been there for, almost 3 decades, into a different position that I think totally fits, his bill. And then I went into that position as the branch office manager of the Irvine office.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You've done a great job there in the 10 years that you've been at it. What is there an area that you guys focus on?
Honestly, we know a ton about South Orange County,
Okay.
but we've been everywhere in the last decade, so we can actually help and know a lot of knowledge about almost every single city in Orange County,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the areas that maybe we lived in even prior to real estate. So, for example, I grew up in a lot of different cities, but primarily in Corona, in the Inland Empire. And so I have over a decade's worth of city and area knowledge in areas outside of Orange County.
Right.
And then Valerie, she was born and raised in LA County too. So, a lot of times if you're able to throw a dart somewhere in Southern California, we'd probably be able to tell you some information about that city and,
Sure.
and what they provide for the clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. That definitely helps for sure. And the Inland Empire has gotten a lot more popular with the coastal cities increasing in price so much.
Yep.
If you want to buy a home, for a lot of people, that first starter home is in the Inland Empire. So
Right.
it's good that you guys have that knowledge base of that area.
Yep.
What are you seeing right now in the market?
Oh man,
That's a loaded question, I know.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to it, and if you ask me that, I won't stop talking about for like 30 minutes. But what I'm seeing right now is that there is an affordability issue, which is creating a stagnancy in the demand, right? But along with that too, inventory is actually starting to open up this year, and so in certain pockets of the Orange County, Inland Empire, and different areas that we serve, we're actually starting to see, market neutrality versus a hot seller's market because of such low inventory, and even some areas where you're seeing buyers markets where there's a lot of negotiation leverage now for you to get into those homes.
Are you seeing that across all price points, or are you seeing that in specific price points?
So mainly in specific price points, and it's all actually for different reasons. Yes, because rates are higher, right? But there's challenges in each one of those areas that you're looking at. For example, if we're talking about areas where there's condos that are under $700,000, $800,000, those are, depending on where you're looking, 2 to 3 bedroom condos or townhomes. Some of the issues that have arisen are things that are having to be done now in the condo complexes, such as balcony issues, additional inspections, special assessments. And what that does is that it starts to chip away at the purchase power that a lot of people have, therefore removing some of the demand that is in that space. And so when you're looking at properties and you're like, hey, this condo's been on the market for 45 days or 60 days, what's wrong with it? And then you start diving deeper and you're like, oh, okay, gotcha. Their HOAs are now $750 a month. Jeez. Versus when it used to be $450. And so that $300 price difference is, in your world,
$50,000, $60,000 purchasing power.
Right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, depending on where that buyer is, it either eliminates them from that price point and they're like, hey, you know what, we're just going to wait.
Yep.
Or they may actually be on the cusp of that versus a place that has lower HOA dues or like a single family home. And it's like, hey, why don't we just jump up and get that extra $60,000 from this $900,000 condo and get into a starter single family home. Media, news, tariff talk. And so the uncertainty in the market from a lot of buyers is like, hey, you know what, there's a lot of movement that's going on. I want to feel like there's stability in what's going on before I make a move. Let's say if they were to go ahead and rent and they only have to pay, let's say, $3,200 a month, but if they were to buy it, they're going to have to pay $2,500 more per month. They're like, you know what? Let's just wait until the rates calm down. Yeah. Let's wait till the news calms down and then just see what's going to happen. So buyers that are like that, and that they don't have, first of all, education on the market, they're going to sit back and wait for the market to do its thing. But buyers that have full understanding, actually, they can see this as a time of opportunity for them to get into a house and maybe even get a great deal going on.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I do think there's a lot of money and a lot of people on the sideline right now because of the uncertainty in the world. And I'm a little bit concerned that if rates do drop in any meaningful way, you're going to have a flood of buyers again. And I could be wrong about that, but it's certainly concerning because there are a lot of people who tell us, on a daily, weekly basis, like, hey, I could probably do something, but it just doesn't feel right yet, and it's like, oh man, what's going to happen when it does feel right for them and everyone else? Yeah. There's going to be a lot of demand, with not a lot of inventory. So,
right.
I also find it fascinating because I'd say 20 to 30% of my business is still down here in Orange County. And man, I've had a few buyers where they'll make an offer on a $700,000 condo and there's 5 other offers and they can't get their offer accepted.
Right.
And then I'll have someone make an offer on a condo and it's been on the market for 45 days and there's no offers on it. And it just seems like if the home is in the right area and priced well, it's going to be competitive.
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to preface that pricing is always a strategy, right? And so many times people may look at pricing and they're looking on Zillow or Redfin or whatever platform that they're on, and they're like, oh my gosh, this house is $980,000. And I'm like, you realize that this is just a price that the seller picked, right? Or that the agent chose. And depending on what the strategy is with that price will determine what the results are. So for example, sometimes we'll have clients who they'll hit us up and say, oh my gosh, Allen, hey, there's this great deal that's happening. There's this single family house in this specific city in Orange County, right? But I can't believe it. It's only $1 million.
Yep.
Right? And I'm like, well, hey, we kind of live by the rule of if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
Right? So let me do a little bit of research and find out what's going on here. I look at the house, I look at the agent, and I'm like, oh, this agent is known for using a pricing strategy where they will competitively price it under market and having the results of we want multiple offers so that we can cherry pick the best one and get the price to where the market is going to say it's going to sell, right? Because many times in the past, especially during years where we had extremely low interest rates, you had such a buyer demand that it almost didn't matter what you priced it at, right? You could be $50,000 more than the last person that just closed last week down the street, and that house will sell for that price or higher because the demand was so high. But right now, pricing strategies are extremely important. So even if you price at where the last property sold, it may sit there for a little while, right? And so many times what Val and I do with our pricing strategy is we look at the market, of course, and say, hey, what does buyer demand look like? How long does it take for homes to get into pending status? What's the condition of the property? Where is it located at? Is there anything on that property that would hinder it from getting into contracts sooner than later? Because what our job is to try and attract as many buyers to that property as possible, right?
What hurdle are you dealing with most in the business right now with either your buyers or the sellers? Like, what's the most challenging part of the business in your day-to-day right now?
I would say there's a few different ones. First of all, Val and I come from an educational standpoint whenever we're talking with our clients, right? And so, one of the hurdles is the amount of education that we have to prepare our clients with versus the fueling force that people had beforehand, that they didn't have to overthink things so much, was really affordability and rates. Where were they, right? So now that rates are higher, it's like, hey, there are many things that we have to look at and combat to say, hey, does this make sense for you or does it not, right? So education is a huge part of what we do. We always sit down and do, even before the new buyer contracts came out and things like that, we did buyer consultations beforehand, just how people did listing presentations beforehand. We've always done that, and the biggest reason why is because real estate is a long-term investment, and many times in our own experience, even when we bought our first home, we weren't educated in the way that we felt like we should have been, and so that was something that that we always upheld, so that our clients would therefore be able to make their own decisions when the time came around. So yeah, as far as that goes, I think that some of the hurdles are going to be the amount of education that's there, which it's okay, we love doing that, but it does take time and it does take effort. And then number two is the difficulties in the market with sellers. So for example, there's the sellers that are unrealistic. Right. Anytime that you speak to the certain person, hey, the neighbor down the street sold their house for $1.4 million. Okay, I want to sell mine for $200,000 more.
Yep.
Why? Because it's on this corner and it has a shed in the back. I don't care about the shed.
Everyone thinks their house is worth more than it is.
Absolutely, right? And I get it. Like some people, it's their castle, right?
Yep.
And I understand, but the market is really what dictates the value of the property.
Yep.
A home is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is like managing expectations is really challenging in this market with buyers and with sellers.
That's a good way to sum it up.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I would say it's the same thing on our end, is managing expectations. Somebody wants a specific payment, it's like it's just not where payments are these days, right? It's just not where things are at, so it makes it challenging. I do think right now, one thing that's not being talked about enough is the tax advantage of buying a home. Yes. When rates were at 3%, there was no tax advantage. Yeah. The standard deduction exceeded the mortgage interest and the taxes that you could deduct, right? But now with rates at 6.5%, 7%, or wherever you get a rate on a $700,000 loan, you're talking about a ton of interest in that first year, maybe up to $50,000 of interest, maybe $10,000 of property taxes. You've got a $60,000 deduction versus the standard deduction of $13,000 or $14,000 for a single individual. And about $30,000 for a married couple, right? Yep. So if you're an individual making $150,000, $200,000 a year, I mean, this could literally be saving you hundreds of dollars a month on your taxes. $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. Right. And a lot of buyers aren't factoring that into their budget. Yep. And so it's important both on your end and our end to be educating more about the education, right? There's so much to go over. Yep. But man, this can really make an impact on if somebody feels ready to purchase or not. Totally. They're off by $100 or $200 in their payment budget. We just look at the tax savings, and now all of a sudden it makes sense, right? It makes sense, right? So there's a lot of little nuances like that, and they don't teach this stuff in school, man. They don't. It's like, and it's intentional, I think, but it's really challenging, and I feel bad for. I remember being a first-time home buyer, and I was in the business to some extent, and it was still overwhelming too. There's a lot of components that happen with it, right? There's a lot, and I would say that is to bring it back to my buyer's consultation. Whenever we are speaking to buyers, those are some of the things that we talk about. We talk about appreciation and time in the market. We talk about having the freedom to be able to do what you want to your home. Yep. We talk about the tax advantages. How it's a form of forced savings. We talk about the way that you can leverage this now as an asset later on in the future
to multiply or to keep it even as a safe haven. I can't tell you how many people that that I've spoken to, and that I'm like, they're like, oh my gosh, what do I do in this situation? I'm glad that you're speaking to me. You know, before you get into a position of desperation or anything like that, let's look at your options. Do you have the ability to get an equity line to hold you off for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
You know, does your mom need to sell your house right now, or can she hold it off for a little bit of time when the market is a little bit, you know, more conducive for the results that you guys want?
Yep.
So knowing the options is going to be, you know, super critical. But yeah, like, you know, that is one of the things that that we go over with our client is the pros to owning a home, right? And one of them is definitely tax advantages, you know. And people, they overlook that all the time, you know, and it's something that, you know, you and I have had discussions sometimes with clients, and we're like, hey, like, yeah, like, this is going to be X amount or whatever it is, but the amount of tax advantages they have, it totally, you know, brings down that wall of resistance.
Yeah,
you know,
and there's
understandable.
Quite a few people in our business who can't even articulate the tax savings, right? Both on the loan side and the real estate side. And
absolutely,
we have to be careful. We're not allowed to give tax advice. I'm not licensed to give tax advice, but I still have a general understanding of the tax code that I can explain to you, and then you can go confirm it with your CPA.
Right.
But these are not conversations that are being had by every agent, every loan officer out there, and they're critical conversations. I know you guys do a very in-depth buyer's consultation. I know you spend a lot of time educating your clients, and it's important and it's necessary as I see it. So you guys do a good job there. Tell me a little bit about Allen Neeley. Like, what do you do outside of work, or is this really your passion? Talk about your family a little bit. I know you have 2 kids that are getting big and
it's crazy, man. Growing. I mean, people that see me, whenever I first get introduced to someone, and then like we bring up the concept of family or kids, and you know, they have, you know, little ones, and maybe they might be my age, and they have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old running around. I'm like, oh, I remember when I used to have kids that age, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, well, how old are your kids? Thinking I'm gonna say like 5 or 6. I'm like, oh, 19 and 16, you know. One's gonna be 20 at the end of this year, and the other one's gonna be 17. So I'm kind of mind blown as far as how quickly time has passed.
Goes by fast,
you know. But kids are a great indicator to help you remember that, you know. What I would say on the personal side, gosh. Real estate really is, you know, one of the biggest parts of my life right now, but there are many components to Allen Neeley, and one of the biggest things is how I can be of service to people, you know, even outside of real estate, you know, whether it be through the church or someone who has a flat tire or whatever it is. Like, I go by, you know, by faith and a code that, you know, for me, I always go by the code of, you know, treat people the way that you want to be treated, right? The golden rule. If I'm stuck on the side of the road and I feel hopeless because my tire blew out and no one was there to help me, what I want someone to go out of their way to say, hey, I see someone in need, and can I go ahead and do that, right? And so that's one of those things where, you know, that's a part of me. It's ingrained in me, and I try to ingrain that in my kids, you know? So my family is a huge part of my life, and so being able to try to help set them up so that maybe things aren't as difficult as I had in the childhood, and same thing with, you know, my wife is something that is super critical for us, right? And so one of the biggest reasons why we also got into real estate too. I mean, we wanted a better life for our family, better opportunity. You know, real estate was able to go ahead and give that, but in the midst of that, we weren't soaked into just trying to make as much money as possible. It was, hey, this affords me the time and the freedom to be able to spend time and, you know, see my kids do, you know, fencing practice, go see my son do his singing lessons or ballroom lessons or whatever type of training that they're in, to start seeing them develop as people, to enhance their gifts and the things that they have bestowed upon them in their life, and to fuel that fire so that they can be as great as they can be. While still keeping a balance of trying to have them appreciate that too, right? Because if you give someone everything, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, they don't have it in their mindset that they had to work hard for it, right? So, so my kids are a big part, real estate's a big part, helping other people is a big part. You know, on the more like personal side, I mean, trying to get back into working out, you know, so getting back to my healthier side is, it's a fight because of time constraints and stuff like that, but being back into real estate sales full time is definitely started to help me back to try to focus on my health a little bit more. But yeah, those are some of the bigger components. In our talks and on our relationship, Matt, I know that we've been able to help a lot of people, a lot of families. I think this is a very, very meaningful career, both on the mortgage lending side and also on the real estate sales side. When we work with very intentional people, right? When those components are there, it's a joy to work with someone that knows what they're doing, and all of a sudden your walls get to come down because you get to trust the other side rather than always being on such a high alert. Sometimes that part of the business a lot of people don't understand, and working with professionals is that care for your clients just as much as you care for them makes all the difference.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself. The barrier to entry on both your side and my side is extremely low for what is the largest purchase of people's lives. Right. It's mind-boggling to me, like how easy it is to get licensed to sell a home or get licensed to provide a mortgage. And I see a lot of things from other people in the business that's just like, man, I can't believe this, But there's a lot of good people in the business also that do things the right way and that operate in integrity and that serve their clients well, just like we attempt to do day in and day out. But man, there's certainly some bad actors that give us a bad name too,
That is one of the things that I wanted to try to dispel when I'm in real estate, because they've done surveys and things like that of where are real estate agents ranking, and I don't want to say where we were ranked at, but we were pretty low on the totem pole.
Up there with Congress and car salesmen.
I'm not even going to say the word that I was thinking about, but they've done surveys where it's like, well, why is it that real estate agents kind of get a bad rap, and how are we going to differentiate ourselves from that, and a lot of it has to do from the ability for people to understand how much you care for them and what this means to them. They might be selling their childhood home that they've had for 40 years, and they have so much emotional attachment to it, right? And I'm like, I get it. I get it. Let's talk about what the end game is, what the plan is, but what we're going to tread with respect, and we're gonna maneuver around how can we enhance this experience as much as possible, because there's both a logical and emotional side to this, right? So being able to understand both sides of the logistics of, here's just the numbers and here's the process, that's great, but let's talk about the emotional part of it too, that comes into play. I think a lot of agents, and also loan officers miss that part. And to kind of wrap this around to where you were talking about, this is a relationship business, right? When I used to be a manager, that was the number one thing I would always tell people. In most of my trainings, I would start off with that and say, hey, this is a relationship business. We're here to build relationships, right? If you have someone that knows you, loves you, and trusts you, you're more likely to help that person than them go somewhere else and trying to find business that way, right? That's why we have a lot of clients that come back to us, that continue to work with us and to build up our business that way. But we do actually enjoy being a part of people's family, right? And people calling us, hey, this is my brother Allen, right? Like he helps me out with all things real estate, but more importantly, he's such a great person. That means the world to me. And so that is something where many agents can get, so focused in on how to make money, in the business. And there's nothing wrong with that. Money is a tool that can be used for great things. But a big part of it is relationships. Yeah,
and the money tends to come when you do the right thing and treat people well. And sometimes that means telling people that it doesn't make sense to buy a home, or it doesn't make sense to sell your home. I was just talking to a gentleman that was introduced to me in my marketplace in Boise, and he was telling me the agent that he works with, that he referred him over to me, and he's like, I will never work with another agent. I will only work with this agent because he told me not to sell my homes when I wanted to sell my homes. He's like, no, don't sell them. You bought them. It's a good time to hold them, and they've gone up dramatically. The Boise market has done very well.
Oh my gosh, Boise's crazy.
And he's like, I will never use anyone else, because he literally told me not to sell when I came to him and wanted to sell. And the agents that I think get focused on the numbers, and the loan officers too, can end up, sometimes misguiding the client into what is actually right. So I know you guys take a lot of pride in how you treat people and doing the right thing, and it's why your business has thrived even in ups and downs. I mean, we've seen a lot of ups and downs over the past 10 years in our business. My gosh.
Yeah, so, thankfully we're still here.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm just eternally grateful for that, and I'm looking forward to what the future has for us as well. So I'm really, really grateful for where I am.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for you guys. I love the trajectory that you're on, and always grateful to be able to work with you and partner with you and help your clients, and grateful for the friendship above all else. Sure. So thanks for taking time and being here today, and
awesome.
I appreciate having you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you got it.